Maya Rivera stared at the eviction notice taped to her apartment door, her hands shaking as she read the bold red letters. 30 days. That's all she had left before losing the tiny one-bedroom place she called home. She crumpled the paper and stuffed it into her purse, fighting back tears as she walked down the hallway that smelled like old coffee and broken dreams. The hospital layoffs had come without warning. Budget cuts, they said. Maya had been a registered nurse there for 3 years, working double shifts and picking up extra hours whenever possible. Now, with her final paycheck barely covering last month's bills, she was drowning in debt faster than she could swim. Her phone buzzed with another text from her younger brother, Carlos. "Sis, tuition deadline is next week. Any luck with jobs?" She couldn't bring herself to respond. How could she tell him that his dream of becoming a doctor might have to wait another year? How could she explain that their mother's medical bills from her surgery last month had eaten through their emergency fund? Maya sat in her beat-up Honda in the hospital parking lot, scrolling through job websites on her cracked phone screen. Most positions wanted experienced nurses with specialized training she couldn't afford. Others paid so little that she'd still struggle to make ends meet. She was about to give up when an unusual posting caught her eye. Private care nurse needed. Live-in patient care for disabled adult male. Excellent pay. Must be compassionate but firm. Previous caregivers did not work out. Contact Riverside Healthcare Services. The pay listed made her heart skip. It was almost double what most nursing jobs offered. Maya quickly dialed the number, her fingers trembling as she pressed each digit. Riverside Healthcare, this is Janet speaking. Hi, I'm calling about the private care position? Maya tried to keep her voice steady. Oh, good. Are you a registered nurse? We've had some challenges with this particular client. He's difficult, Maya's stomach sank. Difficult how? Well, he's been through 3 caregivers in 2 months. He's very independent, doesn't like help, and can be quite sharp with his words. The pay is high because, frankly, we're running out of options. Despite the warning, Maya felt a spark of hope. I'd like to try. I really need this job. Janet scheduled an interview for the next morning. Maya spent the evening researching everything she could about caring for disabled patients, preparing herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. The address led her to a quiet suburban neighborhood with modest homes and well-kept gardens. The house at 247 Oak Street looked ordinary enough. A single-story ranch with faded blue siding and a small ramp leading to the front door. Maya knocked and waited, her heart pounding. "It's open," came a voice from inside. She stepped into a living room that seemed frozen in time. The furniture was functional but worn. The walls painted a neutral beige that had seen better days. Medical equipment sat in one corner. A wheelchair, walker, and various rehabilitation tools. "You must be the new nurse." The voice belonged to a man sitting in a wheelchair near the window. Alex Kim appeared to be in his early 30s with dark hair that needed cutting and intense brown eyes that seemed to study her every move. His lower body was covered with a blanket, and Maya could see the careful way he positioned his hands. "I'm Maya Rivera. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Kim." Alex didn't smile. "How long before you quit?" "The last one made it 12 days. The one before that barely lasted a week." Maya set her purse down and looked around the room. "I don't plan on quitting. I need this job. Everyone needs a job. That doesn't mean they can handle this one." Alex's tone was cold, almost challenging. "What exactly did the others struggle with?" Maya asked, refusing to be intimidated. Alex wheeled closer, his eyes narrowing. "I don't need someone to baby me. I don't want pity. I don't need constant hovering or fake cheerfulness. And I definitely don't want someone who thinks they can fix me." Maya nodded slowly. "Good, because I'm not here to fix you. You're not broken. You're a grown man who happens to need some assistance with daily tasks. There's a difference." For the first time, Alex's expression shifted slightly. He'd expected her to either argue or offer some patronizing reassurance. Instead, she spoke to him like he was exactly what he was, an adult capable of making his own decisions. "The pay is $700 a week," Alex said, testing her reaction. "That's probably more than you're used to." Maya tried not to show how desperately she needed that money. "It's fair compensation for professional nursing care." Alex spent the next hour explaining his routine. He'd been paralyzed from the waist down in a car accident 2 years earlier. He needed help with personal care, meal preparation, and physical therapy exercises. The previous nurses had either treated him like a child or approached their duties with obvious discomfort. "I can transfer myself most of the time," Alex explained, demonstrating how he moved from his wheelchair to the couch. But I need someone here in case of emergencies. Sometimes my legs spasm or I have balance issues. Maya watched carefully, taking mental notes. She noticed how Alex did everything with precision and determination, never asking for help unless absolutely necessary. She also noticed the expensive-looking medical equipment that seemed out of place in the modest home. I used to work in an office, Alex said when she asked about his background. Middle management stuff. Nothing exciting. The disability payments keep me afloat, but it's not much. Maya found this hard to believe. The house might look simple, but the medical equipment was top of the line. The wheelchair alone probably cost more than her car was worth. Still, she kept her observations to herself. By the end of their first day together, Maya had established a routine. She prepared meals that met Alex's dietary requirements, assisted with his exercises, and helped him shower while maintaining his dignity and privacy. Most importantly, she treated him like the intelligent adult he was. "You can go now," Alex said around 6 o'clock. "Be back tomorrow at 8. Maya gathered her things but paused at the door. "Mr. Kim?" The other nurses who quit. "Did they leave because you were difficult or because they couldn't handle seeing you as a person instead of a condition?" Alex stared at her for a long moment. "Both, probably. Well, I see a person. A stubborn, independent person who doesn't like being fussed over. I can work with that." As Maya drove home, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months: hope. The job was challenging, but Alex wasn't the monster the agency had made him out to be. He was hurt and defensive, protecting himself the only way he knew how. She thought about Carlos's tuition deadline and her mother's medical bills. $700 a week would solve so many problems, but more than that, she felt like she could actually help Alex, not by fixing him, but by simply treating him with the respect he deserved. Maya didn't know that across town, Alex was sitting by his window thinking about their conversation. For the first time in 2 years, someone had looked at him and seen a man instead of a tragedy. He found himself hoping she'd actually come back tomorrow. Neither of them realized that this was the beginning of something that would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks into the job, Maya had established a routine that worked for both of them. She arrived each morning at 8 sharp, bringing coffee for herself in a thermos that had seen better days. Alex noticed she never bought coffee from shops, always making it at home to save money. "You don't have to live like a monk around me," Alex said one morning, watching her count out exact change for the bus. "I pay you well enough to afford small luxuries." Maya smiled, tucking the coins back into her worn wallet. "Every dollar I save goes toward my brother's college fund. Carlos wants to be a doctor, and medical school isn't cheap." Alex felt something twist in his chest. He owned 3 luxury cars sitting in a garage across town, yet here was Maya walking 12 blocks to save $2 in bus fare. The guilt of his deception grew heavier each day. As the days passed, Maya began to notice things about Alex that didn't quite add up. He was incredibly smart, often making observations about business and technology that seemed beyond what a former middle manager would know. When she mentioned struggling with her phone's broken screen, he rattled off technical solutions with surprising expertise. "You seem to know a lot about technology for someone who worked in basic office management," Maya said one afternoon while helping him with his physical therapy exercises. Alex tensed, realizing his mistake. "I picked up things here and there. You learn stuff when you're stuck at home with nothing but the internet for company." It was a weak explanation, but Maya accepted it. She was too focused on other concerns to dig deeper. Her mother had been having chest pains again, and the medical bills from her previous surgery were still arriving in the mail. "You're worried about something," Alex observed during lunch. "You've been distracted all morning." Maya hesitated, then decided to share. "My mom's been having health issues. Heart problems. The doctors say she needs to reduce stress, but how can she when we're drowning in medical debt? Sometimes I wonder if things will ever get easier." Alex wanted to solve all her problems with a single phone call. He could pay off every bill, set up trust funds for her family, ensure they never worried about money again. Instead, he listened and offered what little comfort he could provide through words alone. "Your family is lucky to have you," he said quietly. "Not everyone would sacrifice so much for the people they love." Maya looked at him with surprise. It was the first truly personal thing he'd said to her. "Family takes care of family. That's just how it works." Alex thought about his own family, wealthy parents who called once a month out of obligation, business associates who only cared about his money. He envied Maya's close bonds, even though they came with financial struggles. To keep Maya engaged during the long days, Alex suggested they work on puzzles and brain games. He pretended to struggle with simple computer tasks while secretly managing his business empire through encrypted channels on a hidden laptop when Maya was busy with household tasks. "You're really good at these logic puzzles," Maya said, watching him solve a complex problem in minutes. "Maybe you should consider going back to school. You have a sharp mind." "School costs money I don't have," Alex lied, hating himself for each deception. Maya began bringing homemade lunches for both of them, refusing to let Alex pay for the extra food. "I'm cooking anyway," she insisted. "It's no trouble to make extra." But Alex could see the strain. Her lunches were simple: sandwiches, soup, basic meals stretched to feed 2 people. He started leaving cash around the house with notes claiming he'd found old bills in forgotten pockets, just so Maya wouldn't feel guilty about taking money for groceries. One evening, as Maya prepared to leave, dark clouds gathered outside. The weather forecast predicted severe thunderstorms, but Maya needed to get home to check on her mother. "Maybe you should wait it out," Alex suggested, noting how the sky had turned an ominous green color. "I can't. Mom gets anxious during storms, and she's alone tonight." Maya was halfway to the bus stop when the rain started. Within minutes, it became a downpour. Lightning flashed overhead, followed by thunder that shook the ground. Maya ran back to Alex's house, soaking wet and worried about her mother. "Call her," Alex said immediately. "Use my phone. Make sure she's okay." Maya reached her mother, who assured her she was fine and insisted Maya stay put until the storm passed. As they waited, the thunder grew louder and more frequent. Alex began to show signs of distress, his hands gripping the wheelchair armrests, his breathing becoming shallow. "Are you okay?" Maya asked, immediately switching into nurse mode. "I'm fine," Alex said through gritted teeth, but clearly he wasn't. Another loud crack of thunder made him flinch violently. Maya realized what was happening. The sounds were triggering memories of his accident. She'd seen this before in trauma patients. "Alex, look at me," she said gently, kneeling beside his wheelchair. "Focus on my voice. You're safe. You're here with me." But Alex was lost in the memory. 2 years ago, on a night just like this one, the rain, the thunder, the moment when everything changed. He could hear the screech of brakes, feel the impact, remember the terrifying silence that followed. I can't breathe," he gasped. Maya took his hands in hers. "Yes, you can. Breathe with me. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Look at my eyes, not at anything else." She guided him through breathing exercises, her voice steady and calm despite her own concern. Gradually, Alex's panic began to subside. The thunder continued, but Maya's presence anchored him to the present moment. "The accident happened during a storm like this," Alex admitted quietly when he could speak again. "I was driving home from work. The other driver ran a red light. I remembered the thunder afterward while I waited for the ambulance." Maya squeezed his hands. "Trauma has its own timeline. There's no shame in being affected by triggers." For the next hour, Maya stayed close while the storm raged outside. They talked about fear, about healing, about the ways people survive difficult times. Alex found himself sharing more than he intended, not about his wealth, but about his feelings of isolation and worthlessness since the accident. "Before this happened, I thought I knew who I was," Alex said. "I thought my value came from what I could do, how productive I was. When that was taken away, I felt like I disappeared." "You didn't disappear," Maya said firmly. "You're right here. You're intelligent, thoughtful, and stronger than you think. Your worth isn't tied to what you can do with your legs." Something shifted in Alex's chest. When Maya looked at him, she didn't see a disability or a tragedy. She saw him, the person he'd always been underneath everything else. It was a feeling he'd forgotten was possible. As the storm finally began to quiet, Maya called for a taxi rather than risk the bus in the flooding streets. Alex insisted on paying for it, claiming he felt guilty that she'd gotten trapped at his house. "Thank you," Alex said as she prepared to leave. "Not just for staying, but for everything. I haven't felt like myself in a long time." Maya smiled. "You're welcome, but Alex, you've been yourself this whole time. You just needed someone to remind you." After Maya left, Alex sat in the quiet house replaying the evening. For the first time since his accident, someone had seen him panic and hadn't treated him like he was broken. Maya had simply been there, steady and caring. Exactly what he needed. He was falling for her. And that terrified him more than any thunderstorm ever could. 6 weeks into the job, Alex started finding reasons for Maya to stay longer each day. First, it was extra physical therapy sessions. Then he claimed he needed help organizing medical paperwork that seemed to multiply overnight. Maya didn't mind the overtime pay. Every extra hour meant more money for Carlos's tuition and her mother's medical expenses. "I appreciate you staying late again," Alex said one evening as Maya helped him with stretching exercises. "I know you have your own life to get back to." "It's not a problem," Maya replied, guiding his leg through the prescribed motions. "Besides, where else am I going to have such interesting conversations?" Their talks had evolved beyond the basic patient-caregiver relationship. Alex asked about Maya's dreams and fears, genuinely interested in her thoughts about everything from favorite books to childhood memories. Maya found herself looking forward to these deeper conversations almost as much as Alex did. During one late evening session, Maya mentioned her biggest regret. "I always wanted to be a doctor like Carlos wants to be. I had good grades in high school, but college was expensive. Nursing school was more practical and I could start working sooner to help my family." Alex felt his heart clench. With one phone call, he could arrange for Maya to attend any medical school in the country. Instead, he had to sit there offering only words of encouragement. "It's not too late, you know," he said carefully. "There are programs for working adults, scholarships for people with your experience." Maya laughed, but there was sadness in it. "Alex, do you know how much medical school costs? I can barely keep up with our current bills. Sometimes dreams have to wait for reality to catch up." That night, after Maya left, Alex spent hours on his encrypted laptop. By morning, he had established an anonymous scholarship fund through his company's foundation. 3 days later, Maya burst into his house with tears of joy. "Alex, you're not going to believe this. Carlos got a full scholarship. Some tech company foundation picked him for their Future Medical Professionals program. They're covering everything, tuition, books, even living expenses." Alex fought to keep his expression neutral while his heart soared. "That's incredible news. Carlos must have impressed them with his application. He's been working so hard. This changes everything for our family." Maya hugged Alex impulsively, then stepped back, suddenly aware of the intimate gesture. "Sorry, I'm so happy I could cry." "Don't apologize," Alex said softly. "I'm happy for you. Your family deserves good things." As the days passed, Maya began noticing things that didn't fit Alex's story about living on disability payments. The medical equipment in his home was clearly expensive. The wheelchair alone was a top-of-the-line model that cost more than most people's cars. His physical therapy equipment was professional grade, not the basic items insurance typically covered. One afternoon, while Alex was napping, Maya noticed him receive a call on a second phone she'd never seen before. She couldn't hear the conversation, but his tone was completely different, authoritative and businesslike, nothing like the quiet man she knew. "Who was that?" she asked when he emerged from his room. "Insurance company," Alex said quickly. "They call about the strangest things." Maya accepted the explanation, but something felt off. Insurance companies didn't usually make people sound like they were running board meetings. Their relationship continued to deepen in small, meaningful ways. Alex insisted on ordering dinner when Maya worked late, always claiming he was hungry anyway. He started asking about her mother's health with genuine concern, and Maya found herself sharing fears she'd never voiced to anyone. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing enough," Maya confided one evening as they sat in Alex's living room, rain pattering against the windows. "Mom tries to hide how much pain she's in, but I can see it. The medication helps, but it's expensive, and I worry about the long-term effects on her heart." Alex wanted to arrange for the best cardiac specialists in the country to examine Maya's mother. He wanted to ensure she had access to every treatment option available. Instead, he could only listen and offer emotional support. "You're doing everything you can," he said. "Sometimes that has to be enough, is it though?" Maya's voice was small. "I see other families who can afford the best care, and I wonder what I could do differently." Alex moved his wheelchair closer to where Maya sat on the couch. "Maya, look at me. Your mother is lucky to have a daughter who cares so much. Love and dedication matter more than money." The irony of his words wasn't lost on him. Here he was, sitting on enough wealth to solve all of Maya's problems. preaching about how money didn't matter. Their conversations often lasted well into the evening. Maya started staying for dinner regularly, cooking simple meals that she insisted were better shared. Alex treasured these domestic moments, the sound of Maya humming while she cooked, the way she automatically set two plates, the comfortable silence they could share. One evening, as Maya helped Alex transfer from his wheelchair to the couch, their faces ended up inches apart. For a moment, neither moved. Alex could see flecks of gold in Maya's brown eyes, could smell the faint scent of her shampoo. Maya felt her heart speed up, suddenly aware of how close they were, how much she'd come to care for this man. "Maya," Alex whispered, his voice rough with emotion. She pulled back gently, breaking the spell. "I should finish cleaning up the kitchen," but the moment hung between them. Both felt the shift in their relationship, the way caring had deepened into something more dangerous and beautiful. Alex began finding excuses to touch Maya's hand when she passed him things, to let their conversations stretch longer into the night. Maya caught herself thinking about Alex when she wasn't at work, wondering what he was doing, missing his company. The delicate balance of their growing feelings and Alex's enormous lie was shattered on a Tuesday morning, when Maya's phone rang at 6 a.m. "Maya," Carlos's voice was shaky and scared. "Mom collapsed. We're at the hospital. The doctors think it's her heart." Maya's world tilted. "I'm coming." "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's." "Maya, they're talking about surgery. Something about blocked arteries. I don't understand all the medical terms, but it sounds serious." Maya's hand shook as she gathered her things. She called Alex to explain she couldn't come to work, her voice breaking as she tried to stay composed. "Go," Alex said immediately. "Be with your family. Don't worry about me." At the hospital, Maya learned the devastating truth. Her mother needed emergency cardiac bypass surgery. The procedure would cost nearly $60,000, far beyond what their insurance would cover. The surgeon was willing to perform the operation, but payment arrangements needed to be made. Maya stared at the financial counselor's paperwork, the numbers blurring through her tears. Even with payment plans, the monthly costs would be impossible. Carlos held her hand, both of them overwhelmed by the enormity of their situation. That evening, Maya returned to Alex's house emotionally shattered. She needed to explain about taking time off, but when she walked in, she broke down completely. "I don't know what to do," she sobbed. "Mom needs surgery, but we can't afford it. I've applied for financial aid, looked into every assistance program, but it's not enough. I can't lose her, Alex. She's all we have." Alex felt like his heart was being ripped from his chest. Maya was falling apart in front of him, begging the universe for help he could provide instantly. One phone call to his accountant, and Maya's mother would have the best cardiac surgeon in the state. One wire transfer and this nightmare would be over. But how could he explain suddenly having $60,000? How could he reveal that while Maya had been struggling to buy groceries, he'd been sitting on enough wealth to solve every problem she'd ever mentioned? "Maya," he said helplessly, "I wish I could do more than just be here for you." She looked at him through her tears, and Alex saw something that made him hate himself. Gratitude for his presence, appreciation for his emotional support, when what she needed was resources he possessed but couldn't admit to having. "You being here means everything," Maya whispered. "I don't know how I'd handle this alone." Alex held her while she cried, making promises he couldn't keep about finding solutions, researching options, helping however he could. All the while, his phone sat in the next room with the power to end her suffering with a single call he was too afraid to make. Maya spent 3 sleepless nights at the hospital while her mother recovered from emergency heart surgery. The doctors had agreed to perform the procedure with a payment plan, but the monthly bills would stretch their family finances beyond breaking point. Maya returned to work exhausted and emotionally drained, grateful that Alex had been understanding about her absence. "How is she?" Alex asked the moment Maya walked through the door. "Stable. The surgery went well, but..." Maya's voice trailed off. She couldn't bring herself to discuss the financial nightmare that lay ahead. "She'll need months of recovery and follow-up care." Alex wanted to ask about the costs, wanted to find a way to help, but he'd painted himself into a corner with his lies. How could a man living on disability payments offer to help with tens of thousands of dollars in medical bills? "I'm just glad she's okay," he said instead, hating the helplessness in his own voice. Maya threw herself into work over the next few days, trying to keep her mind off her family's mounting problems. She stayed later each evening, accepting every extra hour Alex offered. The overtime pay would help, but it felt like trying to fill an ocean with a teaspoon. On Friday afternoon, Alex had a medical appointment across town. His regular driver was sick, so Maya called a taxi and helped Alex into the back seat, making sure he had everything he needed for his physical therapy session. "I'll be back around 4, he said. "You don't have to stay if you finish your tasks early." Maya waved goodbye and returned to the house. She decided to use the quiet time to deep clean Alex's bedroom, something she'd been meaning to do for weeks. Alex was always particular about his private space, but she figured he wouldn't mind since it was part of her job duties. She started with dusting and organizing, working systematically through the room. While moving papers from his nightstand to vacuum underneath, a folder slipped from her hands, spilling documents across the floor. Maya knelt to gather the scattered papers, not intending to read them, but one document caught her eye because the numbers were so large. She picked it up, thinking it might be a medical bill, and found herself staring at a bank statement. The name at the top read Alexander Kim Primary Investment. Account. The balance made her stomach drop. $847,000. And that was just one account among several listed on the statement. Maya's hands trembled as she picked up another paper. It was a business contract for something called Kim Technologies, with Alex's signature at the bottom. The contract was worth $12 million. Her mind reeled. This had to be a mistake. Maybe it was someone else with the same name. But as she gathered more documents, the truth became undeniable. Property deeds for multiple houses, stock certificates, business incorporation papers, all bearing Alex's name and signature. Maya sank onto the bed, her legs suddenly weak. The man she'd been caring for, the man who claimed to live on disability payments, owned a technology company worth millions. The modest house, the simple lifestyle, the stories about struggling financially, all of it was a lie. But the worst discovery was yet to come. At the bottom of the folder, Maya found a private investigator's report dated 2 months ago. Her own name was on the cover page along with photographs of her family. The report contained detailed information about her financial situation, her mother's medical history, Carlos's college applications, even her work history at the hospital. Alex had been investigating her before they'd even met. The report mentioned Carlos's scholarship specifically, noting it as successfully awarded through Kim Foundation Anonymous Scholarship Program. Maya felt sick. The scholarship that had seemed like a miracle, that had filled her family with hope and gratitude, had been orchestrated by Alex all along. Maya was still sitting on the bed, surrounded by the damning evidence when she heard Alex's key in the front door. She heard him calling her name, his voice cheerful and unsuspecting. "Maya, I'm back early. The therapist had to cancel because of an emergency." Maya quickly gathered the papers, her hands shaking with rage and betrayal. She met Alex in the living room holding the folder like evidence in a criminal trial. "Maya, what's wrong? You look pale. Who are you?" The question came out as barely a whisper. Alex's face went white when he saw what Maya was holding. "Maya, I can explain. Can you?" Maya's voice grew stronger, fueled by anger. "Can you explain why you've been lying to me for 2 months? Can you explain why a man worth millions has been pretending to struggle on disability payments? It's not what you think. It's not what I think." Maya laughed bitterly. "What I think is that you hired a private investigator to research my family before you even met me. What I think is that my brother's scholarship, the miracle that's been giving my family hope, was just you playing puppet master with our lives." Alex tried to move closer, but Maya stepped back. "Maya, please let me explain. Yes, I have money. Yes, I set up Carlos's scholarship, but I did those things because I care about you. You did those things because you were bored." Maya's voice cracked. "Rich man pretending to be poor, watching the struggling nurse count pennies while you secretly manipulated everything around us. Was it entertaining for you? No. Maya, you have to understand. After my accident, everyone who came into my life only cared about my money. The nurses, the therapists, even some of my family, they all treated me differently when they knew about my wealth. I wanted someone to see me for who I really am, who you really are." Maya held up the papers. "You mean a liar? Because that's who you really are, Alex. You've lied about everything since the day we met." Tears ran down Maya's cheeks as the full weight of the betrayal hit her. "Do you know what the worst part is? While I was walking 12 blocks to save bus fare, while I was making peanut butter sandwiches last 3 days, while I was lying awake at night terrified about my mother's medical bills, you were sitting on enough money to solve every problem I've ever had. I wanted to help you, but what? But you were having too much fun watching me struggle. But you enjoyed being the hero who gave good advice while secretly knowing you could fix everything with a phone call?" Alex felt desperate. "Maya, what we have is real. My feelings for you are real. The person you know, that's who I really am underneath all this. The person I know doesn't exist," Maya shouted. "He's a character you created. The real you is someone who thinks it's acceptable to lie to someone for months while they pour their heart out about their problems. The real you is someone who hires investigators to spy on innocent families." Maya headed toward the door, but Alex blocked her path with his wheelchair. "Please don't leave. We can work through this and work through this." Maya stared at him in disbelief. "Alex, my mother almost died because we couldn't afford proper preventive care. Carlos nearly gave up his dreams because we thought we couldn't afford college. I've been working myself to exhaustion, trying to hold my family together. And you've been watching like it was some kind of social experiment. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that." Maya's voice was cold now, the anger giving way to something worse, complete loss of trust. "You want to know what hurts the most? I was falling in love with you. With someone who doesn't even exist." The words hit Alex like a physical blow. "Maya, I quit." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Find someone else to take care of you. Preferably someone you won't feel the need to lie to about every single aspect of your life." "Maya, please." Alex called after her, but she was already gone. Alex sat alone in his house, surrounded by the luxury he'd tried so hard to hide. The silence felt deafening. For 2 months, Maya had filled his days with laughter, conversation, and the feeling that he mattered to someone. Now the house felt like a mausoleum again. Meanwhile, Maya stood at the bus stop, tears streaming down her face. She felt humiliated and manipulated. Every conversation they'd had, every moment of connection, every time she'd shared her fears and dreams, it had all been built on lies. But what hurt most was that despite everything, despite the betrayal and deception, part of her still cared about Alex, and that made her feel even more foolish. As the bus pulled away, Maya didn't look back at the house where she'd spent the last 2 months. She couldn't bear to see Alex watching from the window, knowing that the man she'd fallen for had never really existed at all. 3 months had passed since Maya walked out of Alex's house, and the silence felt endless. She'd found another nursing job at a rehabilitation center, but the work felt mechanical compared to the personal connection she'd shared with Alex. Every patient reminded her of him in some way, and she hated that her heart still ached when she thought about their conversations. Maya's mother was recovering well from her surgery, thanks partly to Carlos's scholarship freeing up money for medical expenses. But even that blessing felt tainted now, knowing it had come from Alex's deception rather than Carlos's merit. "You've been miserable for months," Carlos said one evening as they sat in their mother's kitchen. "Maybe you should talk to him." "Talk to who?" Maya asked, though they both knew exactly who he meant. "The guy who paid for my education and helped our family, even if he did it in a stupid way." Maya looked at her brother in surprise. "You know, I figured it out when you quit so suddenly and wouldn't explain why. I did some research. Kim Technologies, the foundation that gave me the scholarship. It wasn't hard to connect the dots." Carlos sat across from her. "Maya, I know he lied to you, but he also changed our family's life. Mom got her surgery, I'm in medical school, and you got paid well for months. Maybe his reasons weren't perfect, but his actions helped us." "It doesn't matter," Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Everything between us was built on lies." Meanwhile, Alex was fighting his own battles. After Maya left, he'd fallen into a deep depression, refusing to hire another caregiver and barely taking care of himself. His business partner, David, finally confronted him after weeks of missed meetings and ignored phone calls. "You're destroying yourself," David said, standing in Alex's messy living room. "When's the last time you showered? Ate a real meal? This isn't grieving anymore, this is self-destruction." Alex looked up from his wheelchair, unshaven and hollow-eyed. "She was right to leave. I manipulated her entire life and called it love." "So fix it," David said bluntly. Stop wallowing and do something meaningful with your guilt. That conversation sparked something in Alex. Over the next few weeks, he began making changes. He moved out of the modest house into a simple apartment, donating the expensive medical equipment to local hospitals. He liquidated most of his luxury possessions, keeping only what he needed for a comfortable but not extravagant life. Most importantly, Alex established a foundation dedicated to helping families facing medical emergencies. He recruited Maya's former colleagues from the hospital to help identify families in need, ensuring the help went to people who truly needed it, rather than as tools for manipulation. The changes weren't about winning Maya back. He'd accepted that he'd probably lost her forever. They were about becoming the man he should have been all along, the man Maya had believed she was caring for. Alex's wake-up call came on a cold Tuesday morning when David found him unconscious in his apartment. Weeks of poor self-care had led to a dangerous infection that required emergency hospitalization. As Alex lay in the hospital bed, he realized he'd been repeating the same pattern that had cost him Maya, hiding from reality instead of facing it honestly. When Maya heard about Alex's hospitalization through her former co-workers, she felt her carefully built walls crumble. Despite everything that had happened between them, she couldn't ignore her nursing instincts or the genuine concern that still lived in her heart. She found Alex in room 314, looking pale and thinner than she remembered. He was awake but staring out the window, unaware of her presence. Maya stood in the doorway for a long moment, fighting with herself about whether to stay or leave. "Your nurses say you've been a difficult patient," she said quietly. Alex turned, his eyes widening in shock. "Maya, what are you doing here?" "Being stupid, probably." She stepped into the room but stayed near the door. "I heard you were sick. I'm fine. You don't need to be here. That's not what your medical chart says." Maya had read his file. The infection was serious, and Alex had been neglecting his health for months. "When's the last time you did your physical therapy exercises?" Alex looked away. "I fired my physical therapist." "And your caregiver?" "I don't need one." Maya felt anger flare. "Right. Because ignoring your health worked out so well. You almost died from an infection that could have been prevented with basic self-care. Why do you care?" Alex's voice was rough. "I thought you hated me." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "I wanted to hate you. It would have been easier. But despite everything you lied about, I still worry about you." The honesty in her voice broke something in Alex. "Maya, I know I have no right to ask, but can I try to explain? Not to make excuses, but to help you understand." Maya sat in the visitor's chair, maintaining distance but willing to listen. "I'm here." Alex told her about his life before the accident, the wealth that had isolated him, the people who only saw dollar signs when they looked at him, the loneliness that had consumed him. He explained how her genuine care had been the first real connection he'd felt in years. "I know it doesn't excuse the lies," Alex said. "But for the first time since my accident, someone looked at me and saw a person worth caring about. I was terrified that if you knew about the money, you'd become like everyone else, either intimidated or interested in the wrong things. So you decided for me," Maya said. "You decided I couldn't handle the truth. Yes, and that was wrong. I took away your choice to know who you were really caring for." Maya studied his face, seeing the genuine remorse there. "The scholarship for Carlos, why did you do that?" "Because I watched you sacrifice everything for your family, and I had the power to help. I know it was manipulative, but seeing Carlos succeed and seeing the relief in your eyes when your family's burden was lighter, I couldn't regret it. Even though it was built on lies, the help was real. Carlos earned that scholarship through his grades and dedication. I just made sure the right people noticed." Alex met her eyes. "Maya, I lied about having money, but I never lied about caring for you." Maya felt tears threatening. "How am I supposed to trust anything you say now?" "You shouldn't," Alex said simply. "Trust has to be earned, and I destroyed what we had. But Maya, I need you to know. The man you cared for, the man you talked to during those long evenings, the man who looked forward to you, or visits every day, that was real. That was me without the walls and pretenses." Over the next hour, they talked more honestly than they ever had. Alex told Maya about the changes he'd made, the simpler life, the foundation, his commitment to transparency. Maya shared her own struggles with missing him despite her anger. "I've been thinking about something Carlos said," Maya admitted. "He said maybe your methods were wrong. But your heart was in the right place. I think he might be right. Does that mean you can forgive me? Alex asked hopefully. I don't know yet, Maya said honestly. But maybe we could try being friends first. Real friends with no secrets between us. Alex's face lit up. I'd like that. More than you know. Maya stood to leave, then paused. Alex, if we do this, if we try to rebuild any kind of relationship, it has to be completely honest. No more lies, no matter how well-intentioned. No more lies, Alex promised. I'd rather lose you with the truth than keep you with deception. 6 months later, Maya and Alex were sitting in a small cafe, laughing over coffee and sharing stories from their day. They'd rebuilt their friendship slowly, with Alex proving his commitment to honesty through countless small moments of transparency. I got into medical school, Maya announced, pulling an acceptance letter from her purse. Alex's face broke into a huge grin. Maya, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. I used my savings from working for you, plus some financial aid. I wanted to do it on my own terms this time. You're going to be an amazing doctor. As they walked out of the cafe together, Maya realized something had changed. She no longer saw Alex as the man who had lied to her, but as the man who had learned from his mistakes and chosen to become better. Their love story wasn't perfect. It was built on forgiveness rather than fairy tale romance. But it was real, honest, and stronger for having survived the worst they could throw at each other. Sometimes the best love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other, but about flawed people choosing to grow together despite their mistakes.